Well, hey, I'm a little later than I thought I was going to be. Had a little trouble loading the video and stuff, but other than that, I'm here. Here's a interesting story. Nestle, which is the world's largest food producer. Now, originally they were owned by five families, and they were the only group of people in the world that could produce $1 billion in cash within 10 hours or something like that, within a certain period. That's why they were very careful about their children. And I think one of them did get kidnapped. I'm not sure. I don't remember that. That's back in 1978, something like that, when I was working for the Rusty Scupper restaurant, which was, at the time I came to work with them, was purchased by Nestle Corporation. Um, Not a good investment. It was a good investment, but the thing about that is that they didn't understand it's a 12-year investment, and it either stays the same or it dies. And in the case of the Rusty Scupper, it died. It could never, the one I worked in could never match the income because basically it was a bar, and bars don't last long. Restaurants last about 12 years, maybe can last longer. Bars have a very short lifespan because they're subject to the whims of the public. It's a different kind of crowd. You know, it's a social media. You can't get there. You know what I mean? You have to. Crowds move. What's hot, what's not. Especially back then in the '70s. They were there for like chasing women and stuff like that. And I did. I chased a lot of women. I got laid a lot in an bar, man. I mean, that's just That was why. What do you think I did it for? That was one of the fringe benefits. You could sit there and say, I'd say I want a redhead tonight, and you'd go home with a redhead. That bar was just that way. That many women in it, all looking for love in the wrong place. Trust me, many broken hearts in that place. And you can only chase women away so long, and then they don't come back, and that's what happened there. Guys were still there, the chicks weren't. So anyhow, we were talking about Donald Trump on my other video and his incessant desire to bring coal back. And I said he has to have some friends or family invested deeply in the coal industry, because it's just not you're never going to get your return on your investment if you have to spend a ton of money to get into it. I mean, if you already have it, yeah, maybe he'll be able to generate a little income for you if you manipulate this things a little bit. Sell off your coal mine that's hot, get rid of it. But how much coal is left in that mine, and how expensive is it to get it out? It's being done by machine. Maybe it's a little bit more cheaper than it was before, where it was manual labor. The unions and whatnot. Uh, the unions are happy about it, but that's just bullshit. It's like they're happy about the auto industry too, where foreign manufacturers are coming in here to produce their cars in the United States. Well, that's all right. Is there a market for their vehicles? We don't know yet. You know, uh, will it be successful? Yeah, who knows? They cut down a lot of the shipping costs, tariffs, and things like that. But this is Donald Trump. He's going to figure out a way to make money off of it. And it's not for the government. It's not for the United States. His family's making a lot of money off of the stuff he's pulling. Especially the tariff manipulation. When everybody knows what's going on, and you can sit there, and if you have money, you can invest. And then you could sell because you know what's going to happen before it happens. Oh, wait a minute, Jim's here. What do you say, Lady Lucy? Yeah, Andy got arrested. I saw that, Jim. Yeah, I thought it was said 66. Maybe it was the day before 66 or something. but the 65th birthday is arrested. Now you see, here you go with other countries going after their leadership and their leadership's families and whatnot, in to Epstein file. But apparently, and England's has nothing but has had more sex scandals than any other country I know about. But here, we just don't do anything about it. Trump's still running around the streets, mouthing off and everything like that. His big thing now is saying there. First, there was a report that the attack on Iran could come at any minute, and then Trump is saying, "Nah, I think we'll, I don't know, maybe the next 10 days or so." If I'm Iran, I'm heading for the hills because you can't trust that son of a bitch. He's trying to spoof everybody. That's not going to work. That's just him. And they want a regime change. Well, listen, the last time they had a regime change, they got rid of the Shah of Iran and they got the Ayatollah in. Now, you think that's going to make things better? Just needs a change of venue or something. No, I don't think so. Especially where we're concerned. We have never been good at replacing governments. We tried it in Vietnam, didn't work. We get these people don't have money, and all of a sudden they see our money flooding into the country, and we're trying to buy everybody, and they take all the money, and then they, either get shot, killed, or they run and hide someplace. Uh, Panama was an example of it. They just we don't know how to handle it. We should basically stay out of that stuff. Uh, Keep controls on their nuclear power, stuff like that. Maybe, yeah, but to get change the whole government, nah, you don't want to get involved in that. It's not. It's not sanity. It's not sanity. It's insanity. To try and do that, it's not going to work. And if you think it is, you're crazy, because it won't. Oh boy, I'm tired. I'm always tired now. Um, because I hear that I try to stay awake as long as I can in case my wife needs me during the night, but she doesn't really. She's sleeping good lately. Just a very strange disease. She's feeling better, which means the medicine's working, and I'm help about that. I'm going to the same line. Nice hills. All that guy's kids and associates want to watch out. He will escape justice, but I think they think they'll fit the bill. It could just be optimistic outlaw today, maybe. Nah, Trump is in Nanders, and all these people, these rich people, they very seldom pay the same price that the people in the ghetto pay. If you think that justice is equal, you're just crazy. That's just not something that happens in reality. Justice is not an equal opportunity. It's never out there equally. The poor people suffer more than the rich people do. Because the rich people have the ability to get the better lawyers that can look up for the little technicalities and everything like that. And the poor people are just stuck. They're considered guilty before, in a lot of cases, depending on the court system, the town you're in, or anything else. Poor people are considered guilty before they ever get out there. That's just life in general. I don't know. I think all countries are like that. I think this goes back to medieval times. If you were a serf, you were guilty and executed without a trial. If you were royalty, unless somebody wanted your property, and then you were, tried, convicted, and hung. But if you were part of the royal family or something, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted to. No witnesses would ever show up in court against you. That happens. That happens nowadays too. Happens in with the gangs in Chicago and New York. The witnesses that are supposed to testify against these people get intimidated and don't. You know, um, especially in murder and high. Corruption charges. People don't worry about that. Rich people. Here's the other thing: when they do get punished, rich people go to different kinds of prisons. A white collar jail can have tennis courts, can have TVs in every cell. You can have personal chefs. It's a whole different ball game than what happens to the little guy that gets caught picking a pocket on the street, that gets thrown into a cell which is roughly 6 foot by 9 foot, uh, has no freedom whatsoever. TVs, when whoever the strongest is gets to watch the TV, he has to worry about getting somebody's pecker in his butt. So this is all it's all different. There's a double standard in this world. I mean, especially here in the United States, it exists, and I'm sure it exists in Europe. Probably it's always existed in the Europe and the fiefdoms and whatnot, going way back to the what did they call that? Golden Age, not the Golden Age. Going back to the days of knights and whatnot, it was never equal. They tried to make it equal, but it's never equal. You know, um, that's why they had a lot of revolutions. That's why I had little uprisings here and there. That's why people got killed and assassinated. That was a big deal. Especially, and then you go to China, it's the same thing. That's how in Japan, that's how the ninjas came into power. Their ability to take out people. You know, Professional killers are still in high demand. Um, Let me see what you say. Insulated from I don't believe in fair justice. Council, state, working poor, and the regular incidents back then in the 70s were nothing short of horrific. Horrific. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand that. That's what I'm saying. Uh, things back then are different than they are now. Not that they're much better now. Trump. This is where Trump wants to go. If you, he wants to take us back to the 30s, and instead of building an army to defend the United States against an adversary, he wants us to join them politically. He wants fascism back. He wants no women's rights. Do away with that. They're not equal. Dude, if you ever fought a woman, don't ever say they're not equal. They can kill as good as, if not better than men can. And with less conscience. That's the surprising thing. They say there's no women serial killers. We don't know, because there's serial killers, for the most part, there's a whole lot of them that have never been caught. So you don't know whether they're male or female. You could say, well, it's male just based upon this attitude and how it's done and everything. Not so. You got to see some women you got to know the women that I've known over the years, okay? Oh, yeah. So that's just crazy shit. What can I tell you? But justice isn't an equal thing. It never has been. It brings back that old expression, money talks, bullshit walks. That's what it's all about. And sorry to say that. It's a horrible thing, but that's the way it is. you know? So life is complicated, boys and girls. I tell kids that you don't want to grow up, you know? There are cartoons out there. You ever see them, where I don't know whether it's need or greed, Jim, but it's oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Now we were talking about these cartoons that you see, where they tell you things are going to be better, and I was told this or that when I grew up, things would be like this, and it's not that way, you know. So you should. Kids want to grow up so fast, I did. And then when you get there, you know, it's just why did I want this so badly? Why did I hurry up and grow up? Why didn't I stay a kid as long as I could? You know, I try to stay a kid as long as I can. I still try to be juvenile as much as I possibly can. Maybe that's what making me live. I don't know. Because when you let this shit come down on you and you have no alternatives but to be adult about everything, it gets to be a drag. It really does. All right, Jim. Let's see what was the last thing you said to me. The need is involved. Ah, yes, that life thing, full of caveats. Yeah. Well, listen, Jim. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate the little chat we had here. I hope the rest of the people are interested in what's going on. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I work at trying to. I leave. I start out early. I really do. I'm up at 6:30 in the morning, and people say, "Well, what does it take you to 11 o'clock to get here?" I don't know. I honestly don't know. Something always seems to slow me down someplace along the line. Uh, I don't walk as fast as I used to. I don't. I don't a lot of things. But anyhow, that's going to be it for me today. So I want to say thank you to everybody that did show up. Uh, Come back tomorrow. I try to get here at 11 o'clock, but like I said, I'm not in the habit of a job right now. So this. I get here when I come as close as I possibly can. Jim just left, and I'm on my way out the door. So find a subscribe button, pound it a couple of times or whatever, or at least you'll know where I am. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Ciao, everybody.